The white oleander bouquet arrived at my FBI office on Valentine's Day morning, and I knew immediately that my wife was trying to kill me. Not because I'm paranoid, though 15 years as a forensic accountant will make you suspicious of everyone's motives. Not because Rachel had been acting strange lately, though she had been. I knew because my wife never sent me flowers ever. In 12 years of marriage, she'd given me exactly 3 gifts: a coffee mug that said, "World's okay, husband," a tie I never wore, and divorce papers she'd threatened to file twice but never followed through on. "Ethan Cole, you romantic devil," Maya Patel called from her desk across the bullpen. "Someone's got a secret admirer." I stared at the elegant white blooms, their sweet fragrance already making my head swim. The card was written in Rachel's precise handwriting for my darling husband. "Happy Valentine's Day. Love always, R. Love always." Right. Maya approached my desk, her dark eyes curious. She was one of the few people in the Boston FBI field office who actually talked to me. Probably because we were both the weird ones. She'd left medical school to become a tech analyst, and I spent my days following money trails instead of chasing bank robbers. "Those are gorgeous," she said, leaning in to smell them. Then her face went white. "Ethan, throw those out right now." "What?" "Those are oleanders. They're poisonous. Extremely poisonous." Her voice carried the authority of someone who'd spent 4 years in medical school before switching careers. "Every part of the plant can kill you. Just inhaling the fragrance in an enclosed space can cause symptoms." My vision was already starting to blur slightly. The sweet smell that had seemed romantic moments ago now felt cloying, dangerous. I pushed back from my desk and Maya grabbed the vase, rushing it toward the window. "We need to get you to a hospital," she said. "How long have you been breathing this in?" "Maybe 10 minutes. My mouth felt dry and my heart was starting to race. Not from fear, though that was building, but from whatever toxins I'd already absorbed. Maya was already grabbing her coat. "Come on, Massachusetts General is 5 minutes away." As she hustled me toward the elevator, my phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "Hope you liked your Valentine's surprise, honey. Can't wait to celebrate tonight." Yeah, I bet she couldn't wait. The emergency room at Mass General smelled like disinfectant and desperation. Maya had called ahead, explaining the situation. So they were ready for us. A young doctor named Peterson took my vitals while asking rapid-fire questions about symptoms. Nausea, dizziness, heart palpitations, all of the above, I admitted. My pulse was definitely elevated, and I felt like I might throw up. "We're going to start you on activated charcoal and monitor your cardiac function," Dr. Peterson said. "You're lucky your friend recognized the plant. Oleander poisoning can be fatal if not treated quickly." Fatal? The word hung in the sterile air like a death sentence. Maya squeezed my shoulder. "You're going to be fine. We caught it early." But as they hooked me up to monitors and started treatment, my mind was racing faster than my poisoned heart. Rachel was a corporate attorney, smart enough to research toxins, but apparently not smart enough to realize I'd figure it out, or maybe she thought I'd be too dead to care. My phone rang. "Rachel, hi, honey." Her voice was honey-sweet, concerned. "How's your day going?" "Oh, you know the usual. Someone tried to poison me with flowers." A pause, just a heartbeat too long. "What?" "Ethan, what are you talking about?" "The oleanders. Rachel. Beautiful flowers. Deadly as hell." "I don't understand. Are you feeling okay?" "You sound paranoid." She was good. I had to give her credit. But I'd spent 15 years listening to people lie about money, and the human voice always betrayed the truth if you knew how to listen. "I'm at Mass General," I said. "Oleander poisoning. The doctors say I'm lucky to be alive." Another pause. "Oh my God, Ethan. I'm coming right now. No need. Maya's here. She saved my life, actually. Recognize the flowers immediately." Maya. Rachel's voice sharpened. She'd never liked my friendship with my colleague, always suggesting there was something inappropriate about it. There wasn't. Maya was brilliant, funny, and completely uninterested in married men. But Rachel's jealousy had been useful for keeping our friendship under her radar. "Yeah, Maya. You remember her? Smart, observant, used to be in medical school, the kind of person who knows which plants can kill you." "Ethan, you're scaring me." "Why would you think someone was trying to poison you?" "Because my wife never sends me flowers." "Rachel, in 12 years, you've never once sent me flowers. But today, Valentine's Day, you suddenly decide to send me the most poisonous plant known to man. I thought you'd like them. I was trying to be romantic, right? Romantic murder. Very thoughtful." The line went quiet. When Rachel spoke again, her voice had changed. Colder, more like the attorney who demolished witnesses and depositions. "I think the stress of your job is making you paranoid, Ethan. Maybe you should consider therapy." And there it was. The gaslighting. Make me think I was crazy for suspecting my wife of attempted murder. "Maybe I should consider a lot of things," I said and hung up. Maya had been listening from the chair beside my hospital bed. "She actually tried to convince you that you were being paranoid." Standard operating procedure for Rachel. Attack the credibility of anyone who questions her narrative. "Ethan." Maya's voice was serious. "I need to ask you something, and I want you to really think about the answer. Has Rachel done anything else lately that seemed off?" I thought about it. The increase in my life insurance policy 6 months ago, which Rachel had insisted on for our future security. The way she'd been encouraging me to work longer hours, staying at the office until late. Her sudden interest in my health, asking if I'd been feeling tired, suggesting I see a doctor for a checkup. She's been setting the stage, I realized, making it look like I've been sick, overworked, stressed. So when I died, it would seem natural. Maya pulled out her phone. "I'm going to do some digging quietly. Can you think of any reason Rachel would want you dead besides just not wanting to be married anymore?" "Money," I said immediately. "It's always money. The life insurance policy is worth $2 million, plus my FBI pension, the house, my retirement accounts. She'd walk away with close to $3 million. That's a lot of motive." Dr. Peterson returned with test results. "Good news. We got to you early enough that there shouldn't be any lasting effects. But I want to keep you for observation overnight, just to be safe." After he left, Mia leaned closer. "Ethan, I'm going to say something, and I need you to listen carefully. If Rachel tried to kill you once, she'll try again. And next time, she might be smarter about it." I knew she was right. Rachel never left anything to chance, never accepted failure. If the oleanders hadn't worked, she'd find another way. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we find out exactly what your wife is planning, and then we stop her." Maya left around 9 p.m., promising to start digging into Rachel's recent activities. I lay in the hospital bed staring at the ceiling, my mind churning. 12 years of marriage, and it had come to this. My wife wanted me dead, and she'd nearly succeeded. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "The hospital won't tell me anything since I'm not your emergency contact. I'm worried sick. Please call me." I wasn't her emergency contact. That was interesting. I'd always assumed spouses were automatically emergency contacts, but apparently Rachel had never bothered to fill out the paperwork. Or maybe she had and had listed someone else. Another text. I'm coming to the hospital anyway. You shouldn't be alone. Like hell she was. I called the nurse's station and explained that my wife was not welcome in my room due to domestic issues. The nurse, a middle-aged woman named Carol, understood immediately and assured me that Rachel would not be allowed access. At 10:30 p.m., Carol knocked on my door. Your wife is here. She's very upset that we won't let her see you. She's demanding to speak to a supervisor. Let her demand I'm not seeing her. She seems very concerned about your mental state. She's suggesting you might be having some kind of breakdown. Of course she was. Plant the seeds of doubt. Make me look unstable. Classic Rachel. Carol, can I ask you to document everything she says? Date, time, exact words if possible. Carol nodded. Domestic situations. I've seen this before. You're smart to be careful. At 11:15, Rachel finally left, but not before leaving a voicemail that chilled me to the bone. Ethan, I don't know what's wrong with you, but this paranoid behavior is unacceptable. You're embarrassing me, embarrassing us. When you come home tomorrow, we're going to have a serious conversation about your mental health. I've already called Dr. Morrison about getting you evaluated. This stops now. Dr. Morrison was a psychiatrist Rachel had consulted during our marriage counseling 3 years ago. A man who would happily declare me mentally unstable if Rachel asked him to, and if I were deemed incompetent. Rachel would have control over my medical decisions, my finances, everything. She wasn't just trying to kill me. She was building a comprehensive plan to destroy me one way or another. I called Maya. She's escalating, I told her, explaining about the hospital visit and the voicemail. I've been busy too, Mia said. I did some preliminary searches. Ethan, your wife has been researching more than just oleander poisoning. Her search history from the past 6 months includes cardiac arrest symptoms, untraceable poisons, and how to fake a mental breakdown. My blood ran cold. How did you access her search history? I didn't. But I have a friend who works in cybersecurity, and she owed me a favor. Technically, what we did was illegal, so this information can't be used in court. But it confirms what we already suspected. What else? She's been in contact with someone named Daniel Pierce. A lot of contact. Late-night calls, text messages, emails. I think your wife has a boyfriend, Ethan, and I think they're planning this together. Daniel Pierce, I knew that name. He was a partner at Rachel's law firm, a smooth-talking corporate lawyer who drove a Porsche and wore suits that cost more than most people's monthly salary. I'd met him at firm parties, watched him charm clients and colleagues with equal ease. He was also married with 2 kids in private school. Send me everything you found, I said. I need to see it all. Ethan, be careful. If Rachel realizes we're investigating her, she might accelerate her timeline. She already is. The psychiatric evaluation, the hospital drama. She's moving fast, which means we need to move faster. After Maya hung up, I lay in the dark hospital room planning. Rachel thought she was the smart one, the one with all the advantages. She had the legal training, the social connections, the ability to manipulate people in situations. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She tried to kill a forensic accountant, someone whose entire career was built on following paper trails, uncovering hidden connections, and exposing people who thought they were too clever to get caught. Rachel wanted to play games. Fine. But she was about to learn that her husband was much better at this than she'd ever imagined. Chapter 2. Following the money. I discharged myself from the hospital at 6 a.m. against Dr. Mitch Peterson's advice, but with a promise to return if symptoms worsened. Maya picked me up in her beat-up Honda Civic, 2 large coffee cups, and a manila folder waiting on the passenger seat. "Everything I could find on short notice," she said, handing me the folder as we drove through Boston's early morning traffic. "But Ethan, some of this is pretty damning." The folder contained printouts of phone records, email headers, and financial documents that Maya's cybersecurity friend had somehow accessed. I didn't ask how. Plausible deniability was important in my line of work. The phone records showed a pattern that made my stomach clench. Rachel had been calling Daniel Pierce multiple times a day for the past 4 months. Not just during business hours either. Late-night calls that lasted for hours. Early morning calls before I woke up. Calls made from our house while I was at work. "Look at the timing," Mia said, pointing to a highlighted section. "The frequency increased dramatically right after your life insurance policy was updated." She was right. In November, Rachel had convinced me to increase my life insurance from $500,000 to $2 million. "We're getting older," she'd said. "We need to protect our future." The calls to Daniel had started 3 days later. The email headers were even more interesting. Encrypted messages sent through a service called Secure Chat, designed for people who didn't want their communications monitored. The metadata showed dozens of exchanges between Rachel and Daniel, but the actual content was locked behind military-grade encryption. "Can your friend crack the encryption?" I asked. "She's working on it, but it could take days or weeks. This is serious level security." The financial documents were the most revealing. Rachel had opened a new bank account in December, one I knew nothing about. She'd also taken out a $50,000 line of credit against our house without my signature. Apparently in Massachusetts, one spouse could do that without the other's consent under certain circumstances. She's building a war chest, I realized. Money to disappear with after I'm dead. Or money to pay for your murder, Mia said quietly. We drove in silence for a few minutes, while I absorbed the implications. My wife wasn't just cheating on me. She was planning my death with her lover, and they were being incredibly careful about it. "There's something else," Maya said. "I ran a background check on Daniel Pierce. He's got some interesting financial problems." She handed me another set of documents. Daniel was living well beyond his means, even for a successful attorney. Private school tuition for his kids, a mortgage on a $2 million house, payments on the Porsche, a boat, and a vacation home in the Hamptons. His credit cards were maxed out, and he'd borrowed heavily against his partnership in the law firm. "He needs money," I said, desperately. "And your life insurance payout would solve a lot of problems for both of them." Maya pulled into the parking lot of a diner near my office. "We need to talk strategy. What's your plan?" "I've been thinking about that all night. First, I need to know exactly what they're planning and when. Second, I need evidence that will hold up in court. And third, I need to make sure I stay alive long enough to use it. The evidence part is going to be tricky. Most of what I found isn't legally admissible. Then, we need to get them to incriminate themselves. Make them think their plan is working. Get them comfortable enough to make mistakes." Maya looked skeptical. "That sounds incredibly dangerous." "More dangerous than going home tonight and eating dinner my wife prepared." "She's already tried to kill me once, Maya. She's going to try again." We ordered breakfast and spread the documents across the table. I started building a timeline, cross-referencing the phone calls with Rachel's activities and my own schedule. "Look at this," I said, pointing to a cluster of calls in early January. Rachel called Daniel 6 times on January 8th. That was the day she suggested I start working late more often. Remember? She said the firm was understanding about attorneys' spouses putting in long hours. She was coordinating with him, making sure she knew when you'd be home, when you'd be vulnerable. The pattern became clearer as we worked through the timeline. Rachel had been methodically gathering information about my routines, my health, my work schedule. She'd encouraged me to stop going to the gym, suggesting I was working too hard and needed to rest. She'd started cooking more elaborate dinners, insisting I try new recipes. She's been testing delivery methods. I realized the elaborate dinners, the new recipes. She's been figuring out how to poison me without making it obvious. Maya pushed her eggs around her plate, looking sick. "Ethan, this is premeditated murder. We need to call the police." "With what evidence?" "Circumstantial phone records and suspicious flower arrangements." "Rachel's a corporate attorney, Maya. She knows exactly how much evidence is needed for a conviction, and she's been careful to stay below that threshold." "So, what do we do?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the voicemail Rachel had left at the hospital. We let her think she's winning. I go home, act confused and apologetic about yesterday. Let her think the psychiatric evaluation idea spooked me into backing down. That's insane. No, it's strategic. Right now, Rachel thinks I'm suspicious, but not certain. If I suddenly become the perfect trusting husband again, she'll relax, start making mistakes, and more importantly, she'll accelerate her timeline. Maya stared at me. "You want her to try to kill you again?" "I want her to try and fail while we're recording everything. One attempted murder caught on video is worth more than 100 suspicious phone calls. And if something goes wrong, if she succeeds, then you take everything we found to the FBI and make sure she goes to prison for the rest of her life." Maya was quiet for a long moment. "There has to be another way. If there is, I haven't thought of it. Rachel's smart, careful, and she has resources. The only advantage we have is that she doesn't know we're investigating her." I paid for breakfast and gathered the documents. "I need you to keep digging. Find out more about Daniel's financial situation. See if your friend can crack those encrypted messages. And Maya, set up surveillance on my house. I want cameras recording everything. Ethan, I know it's a lot to ask, but you're the only person I trust right now." Maya nodded slowly. "Okay, but we do this smart. Professional-grade surveillance equipment, multiple backup systems, and I'm monitoring everything in real time. The second things go wrong, I'm calling the cavalry." We drove back to the FBI building, where I had to face the inevitable questions about my sudden departure yesterday. I told my supervisor, Agent Ramirez, that I'd had a severe allergic reaction and was feeling better. He didn't press for details. At my desk, I found another surprise. A small potted plant. A beautiful orchid with a note. "Hope you're feeling better. Love, R." I called Maya immediately. She sent another plant. "Don't touch it. I'm coming over." Maya arrived with a small device that looked like a handheld scanner. "Borrowed this from the evidence lab. It can detect most common toxins." She waved it over the orchid. "Clean." "So, this one's safe?" I asked. "This one's bait," Maya corrected. "She's testing you. If you throw it away or act suspicious, she'll know you're onto her. If you keep it and thank her, she'll think yesterday was just a coincidence." I called Rachel. "Hi, honey. I wanted to thank you for the orchid. It's beautiful. I'm so glad you like it." Her voice was warm, relieved. I was worried after yesterday. "You seemed so upset." "I think I overreacted. The stress of work, you know. I'm sorry I accused you of trying to hurt me. That was crazy. You've been working so hard lately. Maybe we should talk about you taking some time off." "Maybe." "Listen, I want to make it up to you. How about I cook dinner tonight? That pasta dish you love? That sounds wonderful. I'll pick up some wine on my way home." After I hung up, Maya shook her head. "She's going to poison the wine, probably, which is why you're going to be watching everything, and I'm going to be very careful about what I actually consume." The rest of the day passed slowly. I tried to focus on my regular cases, but my mind kept drifting to the evening ahead. What would Rachel try? Something in the wine, as Maya suggested. Something in the food I was cooking? Or would she wait until later when I was asleep and vulnerable? At 5 p.m., I left the office and drove home to our house in Cambridge. It was a beautiful place, a restored Victorian we'd bought 5 years ago when Rachel made partner at her firm. I'd loved this house once. Now it felt like a trap. Rachel's car was already in the driveway when I arrived. I found her in the kitchen, opening a bottle of expensive red wine. She changed out of her work clothes into a flowing dress that made her look younger, softer. If I hadn't known what I knew, I might have been fooled into thinking this was a genuine reconciliation. "You look beautiful," I said, because that's what the trusting husband would say. "Thank you." She poured 2 glasses of wine and handed me one. "I thought we could talk before dinner. Clear the air." I accepted the glass, but didn't drink. "I owe you an apology. Yesterday was scary." Rachel interrupted for both of us. "Ethan, I think you need help. Professional help. You might be right. I've already called Dr. Morrison. He can see you tomorrow afternoon." Of course she had. That's very thoughtful. Rachel moved closer, her hand touching my arm. "I love you, Ethan. I know we've had our problems, but I want us to work through them together." She was good. If I hadn't seen the phone records, hadn't known about Daniel Pierce, I might have believed her. The concerned wife, worried about her husband's mental health, trying to save their marriage. "I love you too." I lied. Rachel smiled and raised her glass. "To new beginnings." I raised my glass, but only pretended to drink, letting the wine touch my lips without swallowing. Rachel drank deeply from her own glass, which told me everything I needed to know. The poison wasn't in the wine. It was somewhere else. "Why don't you start cooking?" Rachel suggested. "I'll make a salad." In the kitchen, I began preparing the pasta dish, hyper-aware of everything Rachel was doing. She moved around the kitchen with casual efficiency, chopping vegetables for the salad, refilling our wine glasses, chatting about her day at work, and adding something to the olive oil I was using for the pasta. I caught it in my peripheral vision. A quick movement, something small dropped into the oil while my back was turned. Rachel continued talking as if nothing had happened, but I'd seen enough. The olive oil was poisoned. I continued cooking, making sure to use a different oil for the actual pasta while appearing to use the contaminated bottle. It was a delicate performance, one that required me to seem natural while avoiding ingesting anything that might kill me. "Smells wonderful," Rachel said, wrapping her arms around me from behind. "I've missed this us being together." "Me too," I said, fighting the urge to pull away from her touch. We sat down to dinner, and I watched Rachel watch me eat. She was waiting for symptoms to appear, waiting for the poison to take effect. When I continued eating normally, showing no signs of distress, I saw confusion flicker across her face. "How's the pasta?" she asked. "Delicious. You're not eating much." "I'm not very hungry." She pushed food around her plate, her eyes never leaving my face. After dinner, we moved to the living room. Rachel poured herself another glass of wine, her 4th of the evening, and curled up beside me on the couch. "Ethan, there's something I need to tell you." "Here it comes." I thought I haven't been completely honest with you about something. I waited. I've been seeing Dr. Morrison myself for counseling about our marriage. Oh, I've been so worried about you, about us. The long hours you've been working, the stress you've been under. I thought maybe if I talked to someone, I could figure out how to help you. Another lie smoothly delivered. Rachel had always been good at mixing truth with fiction, making her deceptions more believable. What did he say? He thinks you might be having a breakdown. The paranoia, the accusations yesterday, these could be signs of a serious mental health crisis. And what do you think? Rachel took my hand. I think the man I married is still in there somewhere. But I think he needs help to find his way back. It was a masterful performance. The loving wife? Concerned about her husband's deteriorating mental state, trying to get him the help he needed. If I ended up dead, she'd tell everyone how worried she'd been, how she'd tried to get me treatment, how tragic it was that she couldn't save me. Maybe you're right, I said. Maybe I do need help. Relief flooded Rachel's face. You'll see Dr. Morrison tomorrow, if you think it's best. She leaned over and kissed me, and I had to force myself not to recoil. This woman had tried to kill me twice in 2 days, and now she was kissing me like a loving wife. I'm tired, I said. I think I'll go to bed early. Good idea. You need rest. I went upstairs, brushing my teeth carefully with a new toothbrush I'd hidden in my briefcase. I wasn't taking any chances with anything Rachel might have tampered with. In bed, I lay still and waited. Rachel came up an hour later, moving quietly through our bedroom. I pretended to be asleep, breathing deeply and evenly. Around midnight, I felt her get out of bed. She moved carefully, trying not to wake me, and I heard her go downstairs. A few minutes later, I heard her voice. She was on the phone, speaking in low, urgent tones. I couldn't make out the words, but I didn't need to. She was calling Daniel, reporting that the second attempt had failed, discussing what to try next. My phone, hidden under my pillow, buzzed with a text from Maya. All systems recording, stay safe. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep, knowing that tomorrow would bring another attempt on my life. But I also knew that Rachel was getting desperate, and desperate people made mistakes. I was counting on it. Chapter 3. The Psychiatric Trap. Dr. Morrison's office was exactly what I'd expected. Leather chairs, expensive artwork, and an air of condescending authority that made my skin crawl. The psychiatrist himself was a thin man in his 60s with silver hair and the kind of beard that was meant to make him look wise, but just made him look pretentious. "Ethan, thank you for coming," he said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. "Rachel has expressed some serious concerns about your mental state. She's worried about me." I agreed, settling into the chair. And honestly, so am I. This seemed to surprise him. I could see him adjusting his approach, probably expecting me to be defensive or hostile. "Can you tell me about the incident with the flowers?" I'd rehearsed this. I received a beautiful bouquet at work, and I just panicked. I was convinced Rachel was trying to poison me. It was completely irrational. What made you think the flowers were poisonous? A colleague mentioned they were oleanders. She said they were toxic, and I just lost it. Started imagining this whole conspiracy where my wife was trying to kill me. I shook my head, as if embarrassed by my own paranoia. It sounds crazy when I say it out loud. Dr. Morrison made notes on his pad. "Have you been experiencing other paranoid thoughts?" "Some I've been wondering if people at work are talking about me behind my back." Sometimes I think Rachel is lying to me about small things like where she's been or who she's talked to. More notes. Any changes in sleep patterns, appetite, mood? I've been tired a lot, working long hours, not sleeping well, and I've been irritable with Rachel, which isn't fair to her. Rachel mentioned you accused her of having an affair. Here was the tricky part. I found some phone records that showed she'd been calling someone from her office a lot, a partner named Daniel Pierce. Instead of just asking her about it, I jumped to conclusions. Did you ask her about it eventually? Yes, and she explained that they're working on a big case together. It made perfect sense. But by then, I'd already worked myself up into thinking she was cheating on me. Dr. Morrison nodded sympathetically. Paranoid ideation often focuses on the people closest to us. It's the mind's way of trying to explain feelings of anxiety and insecurity. So, you think that's what this is? Paranoia? I think you're under a great deal of stress, and that stress is manifesting in some concerning ways. The good news is that you recognize these thoughts as irrational, which suggests we can work together to address them. I leaned forward, playing the part of the concerned patient. What kind of treatment are we talking about? A combination of therapy and medication would be my recommendation. There are some excellent anti-anxiety medications that can help with paranoid thoughts. Medication, of course. Get me on psychiatric drugs, and Rachel could claim I was mentally unstable. Make me dependent on pills that she could tamper with or withhold. I'm open to that, I said. I just want to get better. Dr. Morrison smiled. That's exactly the attitude we need. I'm going to prescribe something to help with the anxiety and paranoia. Start with a low dose and we'll adjust as needed. He wrote out a prescription and handed it to me. I also want to see you twice a week for the next month. And Ethan, I think it would be helpful if Rachel joined us for some of these sessions. Couples therapy combined with individual treatment. She'd be willing to do that? She's very committed to your recovery. In fact, she's the one who suggested it. I bet she did. I left Dr. Morrison's office with a prescription for Risperidone, an antipsychotic medication that would make me drowsy, confused, and dependent. Perfect for a wife who wanted her husband to have an accident while impaired. Maya was waiting in the parking lot, having followed me to the appointment. How did it go? She asked as I got into her car. Exactly as expected. He's convinced I'm having a paranoid breakdown, and he wants to put me on antipsychotics. Are you going to take them? Hell no. But I'm going to pretend to. Rachel will be watching for signs that the medication is working. Drowsiness, confusion, compliance. I'll give her what she wants to see. Maya started the car. I have news. My friend cracked some of those encrypted messages. She handed me a printout. My blood ran cold as I read. Daniel, the flowers didn't work. He's getting suspicious. Rachel Morrison thinks he's having a breakdown. We can use that. Daniel, how long do we wait? Rachel, not long. The medication should make him more manageable. Then we can stage an accident. Daniel, what kind of accident? Rachel, I'm thinking car crash. He'll be impaired from the medication, drives off the road late at night. Very believable. They're planning to kill me in a car accident. I said it gets worse. Keep reading, Rachel. We need to be more careful about our communications after this. And Daniel, we can't see each other until it's over. Daniel, I know. But after he's gone, we'll have everything we need to disappear. Rachel, the insurance money, plus what I can liquidate from his accounts. We're looking at close to $4 million. Daniel, enough to start over somewhere else. Rachel, somewhere tropical, just like we planned. I stared at the messages, feeling sick. They weren't just planning my murder. They were planning their new life together, funded by my death. "There's more," Maya said. "I found records of Daniel booking flights to the Cayman Islands. 2 tickets departing 3 days from now. They're moving fast, which means we need to move faster." "Ethan, this is enough evidence to go to the police." "Not yet. These messages prove intent. But they haven't actually tried to kill me yet, not in a way that can be proven in court. The oleanders could be explained away as an innocent gift that I misinterpreted due to my paranoid breakdown. Rachel's already established that narrative with Dr. Morrison." Maya pulled into a parking lot and turned to face me. "So what's the plan?" "We let them try the car accident, but we control the circumstances." "That's insane." "No, that's the only way to catch them in the act." "Think about it, Maya. They're planning to drug me, then arrange for me to have a car accident. But what if I'm not actually drugged? What if I'm ready for them? And what if something goes wrong? What if they succeed? They won't, because you're going to be monitoring everything, and we're going to have backup plans." I spent the next hour explaining my idea. It was risky, but it was also the only way to get the kind of evidence that would put both Rachel and Daniel in prison for the rest of their lives. That evening, I came home with the prescription bottle, making sure Rachel saw me take the first pill. In reality, I palmed it and flushed it down the toilet later. But I made a show of reading the side effects and looking concerned. "How was Dr. Morrison?" Rachel asked. "Helpful. He thinks the medication will really help with the paranoid thoughts." "That's wonderful. How are you feeling now?" "A little tired," he said. That was normal. Over the next 2 days, I performed the role of a man slowly succumbing to psychiatric medication. I moved more slowly, spoke more quietly, seemed confused about simple things. Rachel watched it all with barely concealed satisfaction. On Thursday evening, she suggested I drive to the pharmacy to pick up groceries. "Are you sure you want me driving?" I asked, slurring my words slightly. "I feel pretty out of it. You'll be fine. It's just a short trip." She was sending me out for the car accident, but I was ready. Maya was positioned in a surveillance van 3 blocks away, monitoring my location through GPS. I had a backup phone hidden in my car, recording everything. And most importantly, I was completely sober and alert, despite appearing drugged. I drove slowly toward the pharmacy, taking the route Rachel had suggested, a winding road through a wooded area with several sharp curves. The perfect place for a confused driver to lose control. My phone rang. "Rachel, hi honey, how are you feeling?" "Tired. Really tired." I let my voice sound thick, confused. "Maybe you should pull over and rest for a minute." "Yeah, that's a good idea." I pulled into a small parking area overlooking a steep ravine. It was isolated, dark, and exactly the kind of place where someone might stage a car accident. 5 minutes later, I saw headlights in my rearview mirror. A car pulled up behind me, Daniel's Porsche. This was it. I slumped in my seat, pretending to be barely conscious, and waited. Through my half-closed eyes, I watched Daniel get out of his car and approach mine. He was wearing gloves and carrying something in his hand. He tapped on my window. "Ethan, are you okay?" I mumbled something incoherent and let my head ell to the side. Daniel opened my car door. "Ethan, you need to wake up. You can't sleep here." He was trying to get me to move the car closer to the edge of the ravine. But instead of complying, I suddenly sat up straight and then looked him in the eye. "Hello, Daniel." The shock on his face was worth everything I'd been through. "Ethan, what am I doing here? Catching you and my wife in the act of attempted murder." Daniel stepped back, but I was already out of the car. fully alert and very angry. I know about the oleanders. I know about the poisoned olive oil. I know about the encrypted messages and the plane tickets to the Cayman Islands. You're not making sense. The medication. I haven't been taking the medication, Daniel. I've been pretending, waiting for you and Rachel to make your move. Daniel turned to run, but Maya's surveillance van was already blocking his car. 2 FBI agents got out, weapons drawn. Daniel Pierce, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder. As they cuffed Daniel, my phone rang. Rachel, Ethan, where are you? You've been gone for hours. I'm with your boyfriend Rachel and the FBI. You might want to call a lawyer. The silence on the other end was deafening. A good lawyer, I added. You're going to need one. Hash. Chapter 4. The Unraveling. Rachel's arrest at our house was everything I'd hoped it would be. Mia had coordinated with the FBI to execute simultaneous warrants. Daniel at the ravine, Rachel at home. I watched from the passenger seat of Maya's car as agents led my wife out in handcuffs, her perfect composure finally cracking. She saw me sitting there, and her face contorted with rage. "You bastard," she screamed. "You manipulative bastard." The irony wasn't lost on me. At the FBI field office, I gave my statement while Rachel and Daniel were processed in separate rooms. Through the one-way glass, I watched my wife of 12 years transform from the woman I'd married into someone I barely recognized. Gone was the polished attorney, replaced by a cornered animal looking for any way out. Agent Ramirez led the interrogation, and Rachel's legal training served her well initially. She demanded a lawyer, refused to answer questions, and maintained her innocence with practiced calm. But Daniel was a different story. "He's falling apart," Maya reported, having observed his interrogation. No legal training, no experience with this kind of pressure. He's already admitted to the oleander delivery. What about the encrypted messages? Denied everything at first. But when they showed him the decrypted files, he started talking, blamed it all on Rachel, said she seduced him into the plan. I wasn't surprised. Daniel was the kind of man who looked impressive in a boardroom, but crumbled under real pressure. Rachel had probably counted on his weakness, planning to eliminate him after my death to avoid splitting the insurance money. By morning, the case was solid. Daniel had confessed to his role in the murder plot. The encrypted messages provided clear evidence of premeditation and the physical evidence. The poisoned olive oil, the oleander flowers, the plane tickets supported every aspect of our investigation. But I wasn't satisfied. Not yet. Rachel had spent 12 years making me feel small, insignificant, disposable. She'd systematically undermined my confidence, isolated me from friends, and finally tried to murder me for money. A prison sentence wasn't enough. I wanted her to experience the same kind of systematic destruction she'd planned for me. "Maya, I need a favor." "Another one?" "Ethan, they're both going to prison for 25 to life. Isn't that enough?" "It's not about punishment. It's about justice." Maya looked skeptical, but she listened as I explained what I had in mind. Rachel's law firm, Pearson Associates, was one of Boston's most prestigious corporate practices. Their reputation was built on discretion, integrity, and the impeccable character of their partners. The revelation that 2 of their senior partners had been involved in a murder conspiracy would be devastating. But it got worse. Using my forensic accounting skills, I'd been digging deeper into Daniel's finances during the investigation. What I found was a pattern of embezzlement going back 3 years. Daniel had been stealing from client accounts to fund his extravagant lifestyle, covering the theft through creative bookkeeping that would have impressed a mob accountant, and Rachel had been helping him. "Look at these transactions." I showed Maya the evidence I'd compiled. Rachel was using her access to client files to identify accounts Daniel could steal from without immediate detection. How much money are we talking about? Close to $2 million stolen from at least 15 different clients. Maya whistled. That's a federal crime. Multiple federal crimes. And it means their law firm is going to face massive civil liability, malpractice suits, regulatory sanctions, probably bankruptcy. You're going to destroy their entire firm. I am going to expose the truth. What happens after that isn't my responsibility. The embezzlement evidence went to the FBI's white-collar crime division, who immediately opened a separate investigation. Within days, the story broke in the Boston Globe. Prominent law firm partners arrested in murder plot embezzlement scheme. The media attention was intense. Rachel and Daniel's mugs shot were on every local news broadcast. Their alleged crimes detailed in breathless news reports that grew more sensational by the day. But I wasn't done. Dr. Morrison, the psychiatrist who'd been so eager to declare me mentally unstable, had some ethical issues of his own. My research revealed that he'd been having an inappropriate relationship with Rachel that went beyond professional boundaries. The Massachusetts Board of Registration in Medicine was very interested in the evidence I provided. Rachel's socialite friends, the ones who'd always looked down on me at parties and gatherings, suddenly found themselves answering uncomfortable questions about what they'd known and when they'd known it. The FBI's investigation had expanded to include potential accomplices, and several of Rachel's closest associates were now under scrutiny. Even Rachel's family wasn't spared. Her brother, a real estate developer, had been laundering some of Daniel's stolen money through property investments. Her mother, who'd never liked me, was facing tax evasion charges related to gifts Rachel had given her with embezzled funds. "You're not just destroying Rachel," Mia observed. "You're destroying everyone connected to her. I'm exposing a network of corruption and criminal activity," I corrected. "These people made choices. They're facing the consequences." The trial was scheduled for 6 months later, but the case never made it to court. Faced with overwhelming evidence and the prospect of multiple life sentences, both Rachel and Daniel accepted plea deals. Rachel got 25 years for attempted murder and conspiracy. Daniel got 30 years for the same charges, plus the embezzlement. Neither would be eligible for parole for at least 20 years. The law firm collapsed within 3 months. The embezzlement scandal, combined with the negative publicity from the murder plot, drove away clients and made it impossible to attract new business. The remaining partners were forced to declare bankruptcy and sell off assets to pay civil judgments. Dr. Morrison lost his license and faced his own criminal charges for insurance fraud related to his inappropriate relationship with Rachel. But the most satisfying moment came when I received a letter from Rachel in prison. "Ethan, I underestimated you. I thought you were weak, passive, someone who would never fight back. I was wrong. You've destroyed everything I worked for, everyone I cared about. My career, my family, my future, all gone because of your revenge. I hope you're satisfied, Rachel." I wrote back, "Rachel, I didn't destroy anything. I simply revealed the truth about who you really were. The woman I married would never have tried to murder her husband for money. That woman died years ago, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. You're facing the consequences of your own choices. Nothing more, nothing less. I hope you use the next 25 years to figure out where you went wrong." Ethan, I never heard from her again. Hash. Chapter 5. Starting over. 6 months after Rachel's sentencing, I was sitting in a new apartment across town, watching the sun rise through windows that actually let in light. The Victorian house in Cambridge had sold quickly. Apparently, being the site of a famous attempted murder made it either more or less desirable, depending on the buyer's perspective. Maya knocked on my door at 7 a.m. carrying coffee and bagels from the place near our office. "Big day," she said, settling into the chair I'd started thinking of as hers. "Nervous," I admitted. Today was my first day back at work after taking extended leave to deal with the aftermath of Rachel's crimes. Agent Ramirez had been understanding, even supportive. But I knew there would be awkward conversations and curious stares from colleagues who'd followed the case in the news. "You know what the best part is?" Maya said. "You get to go back to being boring old Ethan, the forensic accountant. No more attempted murders, no more criminal conspiracies, just spreadsheets and financial irregularities. Sounds perfect." And it did. I'd had enough excitement to last several lifetimes. The morning at the office was less awkward than I'd expected. A few people asked how I was doing, but most treated me normally. Agent Ramirez welcomed me back with a new case, a complex embezzlement scheme that would require months of detailed financial analysis. "Thought you might appreciate something challenging, but not life-threatening," he said with a smile. At lunch, Maya and I walked to the same diner where we'd planned Rachel's downfall 6 months earlier. "Any regrets?" she asked. I thought about it. About Rachel going to prison? No. About the marriage ending? Sometimes you still loved her. I loved who I thought she was. The woman who tried to kill me was someone else entirely. Maya nodded. "For what it's worth, I think you handled it perfectly. You could have just turned her in after the oleanders. But then Daniel might have gotten away. You could have let them try the car accident without being prepared. But then you might be dead. You found the one path that exposed everything and kept you alive. We found it. I couldn't have done any of this without you. That's what partners do." The word hung in the air between us. Partners. We'd been through something together that had changed both of us, created a bond that went beyond friendship or professional collaboration. "Maya, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest." "Okay. Are you interested in me romantically? Because if you are, I need you to know that I'm not ready for that. I may not be ready for a long time." Maya smiled. "Ethan, you're a good man, and you've been through hell. If and when you're ready to date again, you should find someone who makes you happy. But right now, I think what you need is a friend who understands what you've been through. And that's what you want. Friendship, that's what I want. At least for now." Relief flooded through me. I wasn't ready for romance. Wasn't sure I'd ever trust anyone enough for that kind of relationship again. But friendship, real friendship based on mutual respect and shared experience that I could handle. We walked back to the office, and I spent the afternoon diving into the new case. It felt good to use my skills for something constructive again, to hunt for truth in numbers instead of lies in marriages. That evening, I went to a new gym Maya had recommended. It was smaller than my old place, grittier, but the people were real. No one cared about my story or my past. They just cared about the work. I was hitting the heavy bag when a growly voice spoke behind me. "You're the guy from the news, the one whose wife tried to kill him." I turned to see a man in his 50s, built like a boxer with scars on his knuckles and intelligence in his eyes. "Jonas Callahan," he said, extending a hand. "Everyone calls me Bones. I own this place. Ethan Cole. I know who you are. Question is, what are you looking for here?" I thought about it. A place where nobody tries to poison me. Bones laughed. "Well, you came to the right place. We're all about honest violence here. You want to hit something? You hit the bag. You want to fight someone? You get in the ring. None of this sneaking around bull crap. Sounds perfect. You ever boxed before?" "A little in college." "Good. because you look like you've got some anger to work out, and the bag's only going to take you so far. Over the next few months, Bones became an unlikely mentor. He taught me to channel my anger into something productive, to find strength and discipline rather than revenge. The gym became my sanctuary, a place where the rules were simple and everyone was exactly who they appeared to be. Maya and I grew closer as friends, bound by shared experience and mutual respect. She started dating a doctor from Mass General, a good man who made her laugh. I was happy for her. I didn't date anyone. Wasn't ready. Might never be ready. The betrayal had cut too deep, damaged something fundamental about my ability to trust. But I was healing. 1 year after Rachel's sentencing, I received a call from her lawyer. She was requesting a divorce, finally accepting that our marriage was over. I agreed immediately and signed the papers without reading them. There was nothing left to fight over. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in March. That evening, Maya and I went to our diner to celebrate. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Like closing a book I should have put down years ago. Any idea what the next chapter looks like?" I thought about my new apartment, my work, the gym, the friendships I was slowly building with people who had no connection to my past. "Quiet," I said. "Honest, real sounds boring. After the last 2 years, boring sounds perfect." Maya raised her coffee cup to boring. "To boring," I agreed. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the city move past the diner windows. Somewhere across town in a maximum security prison, Rachel was probably lying on a narrow bunk, counting the days until her next parole hearing in 20 years. I didn't think about her often anymore. When I did, it wasn't with anger or hatred, just a kind of sad recognition that she'd chosen her path and would have to live with the consequences. I'd chosen my path too, not revenge despite what people thought. Justice, truth, the patient, methodical exposure of lies and corruption. It had cost me my marriage, my home, my faith in love. But it had given me something more valuable. The knowledge that I was stronger than I'd ever imagined, smarter than my enemies had believed, and capable of surviving anything life threw at me. As Maya and I left the diner, I realized that for the first time in years, I was looking forward to tomorrow. Not because something exciting was going to happen, but because it probably wasn't. In my new life, boring was a luxury I'd earned, and I intended to enjoy every quiet, honest, uncomplicated day of it. Chapter 6. The Final Revelation. 2 years after Rachel's conviction, I thought the story was over. I was wrong. The call came on a Thursday morning while I was reviewing financial records for a healthcare fraud case. Maya answered her phone at the desk across from mine, and I watched her face go pale. "That was the Bureau of Prisons," she said after hanging up. "Rachel's dead." I felt something twist in my chest. Not grief exactly, but a complex mix of emotions I couldn't immediately identify. How? Apparent suicide. She was found in her cell this morning. Apparent? Maya hesitated. "There are some questions. The warden wants to speak with you." The drive to MCI Framingham took 40 minutes through Massachusetts countryside that was just beginning to show signs of spring. Warden Patricia Hughes was a stern woman in her 50s who got straight to the point. "Mr. Cole, your ex-wife left something for you. A letter and a package. But before I give them to you, I need to ask some questions." She led me to a small conference room where a recording device sat on the table. "When was the last time you had contact with Rachel?" "The divorce papers about 18 months ago. Before that, a letter exchanged maybe 6 months after her sentencing. No phone calls, visits, messages through third parties, Nothing. What about Daniel Pierce? I've had no contact with him at all since his arrest. Warden Hughes studied me for a moment, then reached into a manila envelope. Rachel claimed she was receiving threatening letters. Letters that made her fear for her life. She said they were from you. She slid 3 pieces of paper across the table. They were typed on plain white paper, no signature, but the content made my blood run cold. You destroyed my life, but I'm not done with you. Prison won't protect you forever. Every day you spend in that cell. Remember that I'm out here waiting. You tried to kill me once. Now it's my turn. I didn't write these, I said immediately. The handwriting analysis is inconclusive. They're typed. But Rachel was convinced they came from you. Warden, I had no reason to threaten Rachel. She was already in prison for 25 years. My revenge was complete. That's what I told her. But she was terrified. Requested protective custody, asked to be transferred to a different facility. We denied both requests. There was no credible threat. Orton Hughes pulled out a sealed envelope marked with my name in Rachel's handwriting. She left this for you along with instructions that it only be opened if something happened to her. I opened the letter with trembling hands. Ethan, if you're reading this, then your plan worked perfectly. You've managed to kill me without getting your hands dirty, just like I tried to do to you. The threatening letters were clever, untraceable, but psychologically devastating. You knew exactly how to make me feel helpless, trapped, afraid. But I figured out something you didn't expect me to figure out. I know who really sent those letters, and I know why. Check the package. You're going to want to see what's inside. Even in death, I'm still smarter than you thought, Rachel. The package was small, wrapped in brown paper. Inside was a cell phone. An old flip phone that had somehow been smuggled into the prison, and a single photograph. The photos showed Maya and Daniel Pierce together at a restaurant, clearly taken within the past few months. They were holding hands across the table, leaning in close, looking very much like a couple. I stared at the image, my mind reeling. Maya had told me she was dating a doctor from Mass General. She'd never mentioned Daniel, never suggested she had any contact with him. There's more, Warden Hughes said quietly. We found this phone hidden in Rachel's cell. The call log shows dozens of conversations with the same number over the past 6 months. She handed me a printout. The number was familiar. It was Maya's personal cell phone. Maya was talking to Rachel for 6 months. It appears so. And Mr. Cole, we've traced those threatening letters. They were mailed from Boston from a post office box registered to Maya Patel. The room spun around me. Maya, my closest friend, my partner in exposing Rachel's crimes, the person I trusted most in the world, had been in contact with my ex-wife, had been sending her threatening letters, had been dating Daniel Pierce. I need to make a phone call, I said. Maya answered on the second ring. Ethan, where are you? You missed the morning briefing. I'm at the prison. Rachel's dead. A pause. Oh my God, what happened? Why don't you tell me? You've been talking to her for 6 months. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. When Mia finally spoke, her voice was different, colder, more controlled. Where are you right now? Answer my question, Maya. Why were you in contact with Rachel? It's complicated. Uncomplicated. Another pause. Meet me at our usual place, the diner. 1 hour. Maya, 1 hour, Ethan, and come alone. The line went dead. I drove to the diner in a daze, trying to process what I'd learned. Maya had been lying to me for months, possibly years. She'd been in contact with Rachel, threatening her, driving her to suicide, and she'd been dating Daniel Pierce, the man who tried to help murder me. Maya was already there when I arrived, sitting in our usual booth. She looked the same as always, professional, calm, intelligent. But now I was seeing her through different eyes. "You look upset," she said as I sat down. "Rachel's dead and you've been lying to me for months." "Yeah, I'm upset." Maya signaled the waitress for coffee. "What exactly do you think you know?" I placed the photograph on the table between us. "I know you've been seeing Daniel Pierce. I know you've been talking to Rachel in prison. I know you sent her threatening letters that drove her to suicide." Maya picked up the photograph, studying it with professional detachment. "This was taken 4 months ago. Daniel and I had dinner to discuss Rachel's mental state." "You're dating him?" "No, Ethan. I'm not dating Daniel Pierce." "Then explain the picture." Maya reached into her purse and pulled out a small digital recorder. "I'm investigating him. Have been for over a year." She pressed play, and Daniel's voice filled the booth. Rachel was always the smart one. I just followed her lead. The whole murder plot was her idea from the beginning. Maya's voice responded. "But you went along with it. I was in love with her, or thought I was. She made me believe we could have a perfect life together if we just got rid of Ethan. And now I realized she was using me just like she used everyone else." Maya stopped the recording. "Daniel reached out to me 6 months after his sentencing. He wanted to confess to tell the truth about what really happened." "What truth?" "That Rachel was planning to kill you long before she involved Daniel. She'd been researching methods for over a year. Daniel was just the latest tool she decided to use." I stared at Maya, trying to understand. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wasn't sure if Daniel was telling the truth or just trying to reduce his sentence. I needed corroboration. From Rachel. From Rachel. So I started calling her, pretending to be sympathetic. Told her I thought you'd manipulated the investigation, that I was having doubts about your innocence. And she believed you. She wanted to believe me. Rachel never could accept that she'd been outsmarted by her weak husband. She was eager to find evidence that you were the real villain." Maya pulled out another recording device. "Listen to this." Rachel's voice, tiny through the prison phone system. "Ethan planned everything from the beginning. The oleanders, the investigation, even Daniel's confession. He manipulated all of us." Maya's voice. "How could he have planned Daniel's involvement? He must have known about the affair before he let on. Set up the whole situation to make us look guilty." "That's insane, Rachel. Even Ethan isn't that smart. You don't know him like I do. He's been planning this for years, waiting for the perfect moment to destroy me." Maya stopped the playback. She was completely delusional, convinced that you were some kind of criminal mastermind who'd orchestrated everything. But the threatening letters were designed to make her paranoid enough to reveal the truth. And it worked. In her final weeks, Rachel confessed to everything. The original murder plot, the embezzlement scheme, even plans to kill Daniel after you were dead. I felt sick. You drove her to suicide to get a confession. I didn't drive her to anything. Rachel killed herself because she couldn't live with the truth about who she really was. Maya reached across the table and took my hand. "Ethan, she wasn't the woman you married. She hadn't been that woman for years. The person who died in prison yesterday was a murderer, an embezzler, and a sociopath who would have killed again if given the chance. You should have told me what you were doing. I couldn't risk it. If you'd known, you might have tried to stop me. Or worse, you might have confronted Rachel directly. And now Daniel's going to get out early because of his cooperation. Daniel's serving 30 years, and he'll serve every day of it. His cooperation doesn't change his sentence. It just gives us a complete picture of what really happened. I sat back, overwhelmed. Everything I thought I knew about the past 2 years was wrong. Maya hadn't been my loyal friend and partner. She'd been conducting her own investigation, using me as an unwitting cover, while she manipulated both Rachel and Daniel into revealing the full scope of their crimes. Are we friends, Maya? Or was that part of the investigation too? Maya was quiet for a long moment. We're friends, Ethan. Everything between us has been real. But I'm also an FBI agent. And when I realized there were still unanswered questions about your case, I had to pursue them without telling me. Without telling you, I looked at the woman sitting across from me. Someone I'd trusted with my life, who'd helped me expose my wife's crimes, who'd been secretly investigating those same crimes for months without my knowledge. What happens now? Now we close the case. Rachel's dead. Daniel's in prison, and we have a complete confession of their crimes. It's over, Ethan. Is it? Or are there more secrets you haven't told me? Maya met my eyes. No more secrets, I promise. I wanted to believe her. But I'd learned that the people closest to you were capable of the most devastating betrayals. I need time to process this, I said. I understand. I stood up to leave, then turned back. Maya, did you ever consider that maybe some truths aren't worth pursuing? That maybe Rachel's death wasn't worth getting a few more details about crimes we'd already solved? Maya's expression didn't change. No, Ethan, I didn't consider that. And in that moment, I realized that Maya and I were more different than I'd ever imagined. She was willing to sacrifice anything, friendship, trust, even human life, in pursuit of absolute truth. I wasn't. I walked out of the diner and didn't look back. Hashepilog, the weight of truth. 3 months later, I was sitting in Bones' gym after hours, wrapping my hands for a session with a heavy bag. The place was empty, except for the two of us. And the silence was exactly what I needed. You've been hitting that bag like it owes you money, Bones observed from behind the counter where he was doing paperwork. Therapy, I said. What kind of therapy involves trying to punch a hole through leather? I started working the bag, focusing on technique rather than power, the kind where you don't have to talk about your feelings. Bones laughed. Fair enough. But you know, sometimes talking helps too. You offering to be my therapist, Bones? Hell no. I'm offering to be a friend who listens. I stopped hitting the bag and looked at him. In the months since Rachel's death, Bones had become one of the few people I trusted completely. He was exactly who he appeared to be. No hidden agendas, no secret investigations, no complicated loyalties. My partner at work has been lying to me for over a year. I said she was conducting a secret investigation into my ex-wife's death, manipulating everyone involved, including me. And you found out I found out. How do you feel about it? I thought about the question. Betrayed again. It's like everyone in my life has a secret agenda. Bones nodded. You know what I learned in 30 years of boxing? The hardest fights aren't against the guys who try to knock you out in the first round. They're against the guys who wear you down slowly, make you question everything you think you know. Meaning maybe it's time to stop fighting and start living. I unwrapped my hands, considering his words. How do I do that when I can't trust anyone? You start small. You trust one person with one small thing. If they prove trustworthy, you trust them with something bigger. If they don't, you move on. And if everyone betrays me, then you become a hermit and live in the woods. But that's not going to happen because most people aren't like your ex-wife or your partner. Most people are just trying to get through the day without hurting anyone. That weekend, I made a decision. I couldn't keep living in the shadow of Rachel's crimes and Maya's betrayal. I couldn't keep waiting for the next person to reveal their hidden agenda. I put my apartment up for sale and started looking for a new job. Not in Boston, not in law enforcement, not anywhere connected to my past life. I found a position with a small accounting firm in Portland, Maine. Nothing glamorous, small business audits, tax preparation, estate planning, boring work that would let me use my skills without the constant reminder of murder and betrayal. Maya came to see me the day before I left Boston. "I heard you were leaving," she said, standing awkwardly in my empty apartment. "Need travels fast. Ethan, I know you're angry with me, but I hope someday you'll understand why I did what I did." I looked at her, this brilliant, driven woman who'd helped save my life, and then betrayed my trust in pursuit of absolute truth. "I understand, Maya. That's the problem." "What do you mean?" "I understand that you're the kind of person who will sacrifice anything for the truth. Friendship, trust, human decency. It all comes second to solving the case. That's not fair, isn't it? You drove a woman to suicide to get a confession about crimes we'd already solved. You lied to me for over a year while pretending to be my closest friend. You manipulated everyone involved, including me." Maya's composure finally cracked. "I was trying to protect you." "From what?" The truth was already out. Rachel was in prison. Daniel was in prison. I was safe. What were you protecting me from? From the possibility that there were other people involved, other threats you didn't know about. And were there? Maya looked away. "No. So you destroyed our friendship, drove Rachel to suicide, and manipulated everyone involved for nothing. For the truth. The truth isn't always worth the price, Maya." She stood there for a moment, and I could see her struggling with the concept. For Maya, truth was the highest value, the thing that justified any sacrifice. She genuinely couldn't understand why I didn't share that priority. "I'm sorry," she said finally. "I know you are. But sorry doesn't undo the damage." After she left, I finished packing and tried not to think about the fact that I was leaving behind the only person who truly understood what I'd been through. The drive to Portland took 4 hours through New England countryside that was spectacular in its autumn colors. I'd rented a small apartment near the harbor, close enough to walk to work, far enough from my past to start over. My new colleagues were pleasant, but not intrusive. The work was exactly as boring as I'd hoped. I joined a local gym, found a decent coffee shop, established routines that had nothing to do with murder or betrayal. For the first time in years, I was sleeping through the night. 6 months into my new life, I got a letter forwarded from my old address in Boston. The return address was a federal prison in Pennsylvania. Daniel Pierce. "Ethan, I heard about Rachel's death. I know Maya told you about our conversations, about the things Rachel confessed. I wanted you to know that everything I told Maya was true. Rachel was planning to kill you long before she involved me. I was just another tool she used, another person she manipulated. I'm not asking for forgiveness. What we did was unforgivable. But I wanted you to know that, in the end, Rachel got exactly what she deserved. She died knowing that she'd been outsmarted by the husband she thought was weak and stupid. She died knowing that all her plans had failed, that everyone she tried to use had turned against her. That's a kind of justice, even if it's not the kind anyone planned. Daniel Pierce." I read the letter twice, then threw it away. Daniel was wrong. Rachel's death wasn't justice. It was just the final tragedy in a story that had already had too many casualties. But he was right about one thing. Rachel had died knowing she'd been defeated by the man she'd underestimated. In her twisted way, she'd probably seen that as the ultimate betrayal. A year after leaving Boston, I was having dinner at a small restaurant near my apartment when a woman at the next table started choking. Without thinking, I performed the Heimlich maneuver, dislodging a piece of food from her throat. "Thank you," she gasped when she could breathe again. "You saved my life." Her name was Sarah. She was a librarian at the local college, and she had the most genuine smile I'd seen in years. When she asked if she could buy me coffee sometime to thank me properly, I almost said no. Then I remembered Bones's advice about trusting one person with one small thing. "I'd like that," I said. Coffee led to dinner. Dinner led to long walks along the harbor, and gradually, carefully, I began to trust again. Sarah was exactly who she appeared to be. Kind, intelligent, honest about her past and her flaws. When she asked about my previous marriage, I told her the truth. Not all of it. Not the details that would make headlines, but the essential facts. My wife had betrayed me, tried to kill me, and died in prison. "That must have been terrible," Sarah said. "It was, but it's over now." "Are you over it?" I thought about the question. I'm over her. I'm over the anger. I'm not sure I'll ever be over the betrayal. "Trust is like a bone," Sarah said. "When it breaks, it can heal stronger than before. But it takes time, and it has to be set properly." 6 months later, Sarah and I moved in together. It was a small step, but it felt enormous. For the first time since Rachel's betrayal, I was choosing to be vulnerable with another person. 2 years after that, we were married in a simple ceremony at the harbor with Bones as my best man and Sarah's sister as her maid of honor. No lawyers, no FBI agents, no complicated histories. Just two people who'd found each other and decided to build something honest together. Maya sent a wedding gift, a beautiful set of kitchen knives with a note that said, "For cutting through the tough stuff." I wasn't sure if it was a peace offering or a subtle threat. But Sarah laughed when I told her about Maya's role in my past. "She sounds like someone who cares about you, but doesn't know how to show it properly." Sarah said, "That's probably accurate. Are you going to forgive her?" "Someday, but not today." On our first anniversary, Sarah and I were walking along the harbor when she asked the question I'd been dreading. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Rachel had succeeded? If she'd killed you sometimes? And I think she would have gotten away with it. She and Daniel would have taken the insurance money and disappeared to some tropical island, and everyone would have believed I died of natural causes or an accident. But she didn't succeed. No, she underestimated me, underestimated Maya, made mistakes because she thought she was smarter than everyone else." Sarah stopped walking and turned to face me. "Ethan, I need to tell you something." My heart skipped a beat. Here it comes, I thought. The revelation, the betrayal, the secret that would destroy everything we'd built. "I love you," Sarah said completely, honestly, without reservation. "And I need you to know that I will never lie to you, never betray you, never give you reason to doubt my loyalty." I stared at her, waiting for the other shoe to drop. "That's it?" I asked. "That's it?" I kissed her then, right there on the harbor walkway with the salt air around us and the future stretching out like an unwritten book. For the first time in years, I believed that the future might actually be worth living. Later that night, as Sarah slept beside me in our small apartment, I thought about Rachel, not with anger or hatred, but with something approaching pity. She'd had everything: intelligence, beauty, success, a husband who loved her. And she'd thrown it all away for money, and a man who'd betrayed her the moment he was caught. In the end, Rachel's greatest crime wasn't trying to kill me. It was wasting a life that could have been extraordinary. I'd learned from her mistakes. I'd chosen trust over suspicion, love over revenge, hope over cynicism. It wasn't easy. Every day required a conscious decision to believe in the possibility of goodness. But it was worth it. The next morning, I woke up next to a woman who loved me in a home we'd built together, with a future that belonged to us alone. Rachel was dead. Daniel was in prison. Maya was pursuing truth in whatever destructive way she thought necessary. And I was finally, completely, genuinely